This is going to be just a short follow-up to the previous video, or the intro part to be precise. I am okay, and to an extent it's necessary, with the protagonist learning from others, obviously to a reasonable extent, especially when it comes to things outside of what is the protagonist's expertise, but I am less fine with the mentor or the school or institution of any sort basically defining the protagonist's entire future and skill set based on, let's say, intentionally misleading or foggy teachings that in their core actually carry an extremely simple message that in all realities the protagonist should have been able to figure out by himself. A completely clueless protagonist in everything always just isn't really my cup of tea. Proportions, they really need to exist for me to enjoy the story, and in this case more than in most others. I will get back to this as I've mentioned in the previous video, because I do have some more things that I consider worth recording for my future attempts at writing, because there are many other important parts of story making that are directly connected to this, like the time period that's covered by the story and the learning and experiencing part of the character development, not just of the protagonist, but of all the characters in the story. But for today, that's it. I just wanted to quickly capture a thought that emerged after the previous video. But for now, rapid arrows, I wanted to overcome my limits and maybe cover four, maybe even five stories in today's one. So last time, winter adventures, Christmas, and fishing out a big catch from a frozen river. And the winter is still here, snow is all around, and the rapid arrows are going to build some snowmans back to the Black Valley where they celebrated Christmas previously, and even the Brotherhood of the Cat's Paw is there, although they are sledging. The boys are hard at work, the first snowball is done, the biggest one to serve as a base, and when the second ball is in its place, it's already clear that it's going to be a big one, with Speedy proposing that they have to put something actually funny on top of its head. Ideally, something as funny as what's Redcap wearing all the time, who immediately retaliates, offering Speedy special tutoring using his hands. When even the head is in place, all finished with eyes, nose, and mouth, and even a casserole on top as a hat, the Brotherhood finally comes looking for trouble, since they consider building snowmen a kids' entertainment. Speedy promptly sends them sledging to not mingle with the big boys, but Indra is convinced that a more tangible kind of retribution is in place. Unfortunately, the snowman is going to be sacrificed for the greater cause, but some losses are acceptable if the results speak for themselves. The rest of the boys are confused, wondering what's Indra planning. He pushes the snowballs on top of the hill that the Brotherhood uses to ride down from, and he announces them that they've stopped playing like little kids. Longpole laughs at them, saying that it took them long enough, and then commands to begin another downhill. Right after them, it's time for the rapid arrows to begin their descent, or well, parts of the snowman, sending the balls right behind the Brotherhood. The first one to notice the incoming disaster is Bohoj, who's sitting backwards. He tries to warn the rest of the Brotherhood, but there is no way to outrun the White Death, and before long, the three villains are sticking out of a large snowball, Longpole screaming that it must have been an avalanche that they somehow took down with their ride, but Indra quickly corrects him that it's just them no longer playing children's games. Next one, more sledging, but this time it's a competition. A boy offering all the issues of the young herald from the previous year to anyone who can finish the ride safely without a single crash. The rapid arrows are participating as well. They get to walk through the track, and it is a treacherous one indeed, with many spots that can just decommission their sledge in an instant. And before long, the first sledge, called Cyclone, is on the start line. The three boys piloting it, ready to compete for the complete Herald, but their race is cut short in one of the more dangerous spots, sending them crashing into the snow in one big pile. Next one, the yellow team makes it a bit further, but on a big jump, their flight seems to be a bit askew, and another pile of racers emerges. Other teams tried and failed, and then it's the rapid arrows' turn, having the unlucky number 13. Mirek laughs at that, not being the superstitious one, but Speedy declares that as a safety net in case they actually crash, they'll have an excuse. Mirek being the one on the front, calling the signs, leaning left in a particularly nasty corridor, and then braking in front of the worst jump on the track that no other sledge was able to overcome as of yet. Then the state of weightlessness, flight, the sound of something breaking after the landing, but the sledge remains somewhat capable of finishing, and indeed they are the very first ones to finish the race and thus win the Herald. Boys are happy with the victory, but they all already have the previous issues of the Young Herald, so they decide to donate this entire year's worth of magazines to their school. And still within the winter theme, there is a 2 days expedition that the boys planned. All got permissions from their parents, and everyone's ready to venture forth. Well, not everyone. Speedy seems to be slightly behind the schedule. Redcap's going to drag him out because he's pretty sure that Speedy overslept, and he was right. Speedy, rather confused, finally realizes what's happening and promises that he'll be down in 3 minutes. And to his defense, he is able to come down in 3 minutes. Unfortunately, he's looking like a very modern piece of art. Mirek tells him that he appreciates his commitment to his words, that he actually made it in 3 minutes, but now he needs to go back and actually get ready. For example, get his other ski. And again, they are going to the Black Valley, and they decide to check on the boy that they offered some company for the Christmas day, Tonda, but it turns out that his sleeping spot is empty, even though apparently Mirek took the matters in his hands and convinced his father to help the boy get a spot in the orphanage. Well, with the boy missing, at least not in his spot where he would sleep, Indra finds some of his tracks, apparently quite old. Really fortunate that there was no snowing in that time period. Following the tracks, they find a camping spot of the boy. They decide to use it as well before continuing, and after the meal, they follow the tracks all the way to an inn where they decide to sleep over. instead of the students' hostel that they were planning to use before. They asked the innkeeper if it's possible for them to sleep over there, and if he hadn't seen a boy looking like a wanderer, the lost Tonda. The innkeeper tells them a price, and regarding the boy, he says that he's never seen someone like that, quite dismissively. The boys find the place a bit suspicious, and Indra even notices as if someone was crying somewhere, and they decide to investigate. At first, they think that the sounds are coming from the attic, but Mirek leads them elsewhere, with Speedy saying that it would be a rather big disaster if the innkeeper called them there, because it would seem like they are trying to steal from him. And in the very next moment, he breaks a bunch of plates. Redcat calls him an elephant in porcelain. The English equivalent would be a bull in a china shop, and panic ensues. Indra is going to check on the stairs if anyone's coming up, and the rest needs to hide. Speedy in a barrel, some others under the table with a cloth hanging over it, Mirek behind a crate, and they barely manage to properly hide before the innkeeper comes up with a candle in hands, mumbling hopefully that it's not some thieves. He sees the broken plates and immediately thinks that it was the cat that broke them, issuing a punishment in the form of no dinner for the poor falsely accused furry boy. Then he leaves and the rabbit arrows emerge from their hiding spots, intent to finish their investigation. They find a door from behind which the crying seems to be coming, and who would have guessed? It's Tonda. He tried to get a job in this inn, but it seems that the owner is not exactly the best person, and he seems to be unable to hold on any longer. Mirek informs him that his father is going to get him a spot in the orphanage, and that he just needs to last one last night, and then he'll be free and he'll be able to learn a trade, a skill, while staying safely in the orphanage. And Speedy, the true perpetrator of the plate smashing crime, well, accident, proves that he does have a heart in the right place and brings the poor cat a new dinner since he was unjustly punished. And that's where I'm going to stop for today. Again, I'll have more, hopefully at least somewhat articulate things to say about protagonists and writing my own story. And then, as always, more adventures of the Rapid Arrows Club.